Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar on marketing practices. Guys, it's Friday, and as I always saying, I love Webinar Friday. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope that you will find as much value in what we're going to be chatting about today as I am going to have enjoyment in sharing this with you. So guys, quick one for you. Oh, sorry, for those of you guys that don't know me, my name is Alex Schroeder. I am the CEO of VetPrep Australia. I'm also a sanction manager. Stuff that I do, I work on the ASPR stakeholder liaison group. I sit on various subcommittees there. I'm on ITECA, etc., etc. I'm not going to go through and tell you guys my whole pedigree. If you're really that interested, feel free to go onto LinkedIn, have a look at who I am and what I do. Yeah, and we won't waste any time on me singing my own laurels. How does that go? Guys, if you have, after today's webinar, we are going to have a question answer session. However, if there are any questions that I didn't get around to answering for you, or if you have any questions that you think of after the webinar, please send an email to info@aicp.edu.au and the guys will forward your questions on to me. Sometimes it's much easier for me just to pick up the phone and just call you and have a chat with you about your question. Other times I might send you an email, but I do my very best to get back to people with questions or the answers to questions that they've asked. Guys, for today, your certificates of attendance are normally issued within 48 hours. And in fact, I think it might now be 24 hours. What will happen is you will get an email from GoToWebinar to say, hey, thanks for joining the webinar. And then at the bottom of that email, there'll be a link that you need to click to get your certificate of attendance. AICP cannot issue certificates of attendance manually. And guys, the reason for that is we are 497 people on today's webinar. One of the reasons why AICP uses GoToWebinar is because it can issue certificates automatically. And can you imagine the amount of work involved if AICP had to issue certificates manually? And even if people come back and they say, I didn't get my certificate, in order for AICP to issue you the certificate manually, they then have to go through the entire attendance list. They need to go and verify that you've attended, etc. It just becomes too complicated. Now, there are a few instances, excuse me one sec. If you do not receive your attendance certificate, it might be for a few reasons. First of all, if you have registered on GoToWebinar and you have provided an incorrect email address, then obviously the link to your attendance certificate would go to that email address. Similarly, if you have made a mistake in how you've typed in your email address, you won't get the link. We also find that sometimes people may have the AICP email address on, or the GoToWebinar address on a block, on your email block, where it goes straight through to your spam. So if you don't get your statement, your certificate of attendance, go check your spam. Or we often find that in RTOs themselves, in their email system, marketing emails will automatically get grey listed, and something like GoToWebinar we have found is sometimes seen as a marketing email. So it may also be that the email is blocked by your own RTO's internal email system. And like I said, we've got no control over that, and AICP is unable to issue certificates manually. Something we came across after last webinar is if you have registered for the webinar, but let's say for argument's sake that you are sharing a computer screen with your colleague, then GoToWebinar only registers that one person has attended, and therefore one person will get a certificate, the other one won't. So once again, please make sure that you've registered, gone off to spam. It hasn't been blocked by your RTO's internal server. And also, if you do want a certificate of attendance, it will not happen if you are sharing a screen with your colleague, because then only one attendance is registered. Guys, it is the beginning of October, which means that we have got only until, I think we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 more compliance webinars for this year. What I do want to do is I absolutely want to hear from you in what kind of topics you want us to chat about next year. So within the next couple of weeks, ARCP or either an ARCP team member or a vet prep team member is going to send you out an email and ask you, hey, give us 3 or 4 ideas of what you'd like us to cover, because it's all fair and well for me to sit here and to say, look, I want to share this on the webinars and I want to share that topics. But I think it's going to be far more useful to you and far of far greater benefit if you tell me what it is that you'd like me to share with you guys. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to do every single topic that comes back, but I'm going to obviously have a look to see which topics the more people are interested in. But please help me when that email comes to you. Please come back and please say, hey, Alex, we'd like to hear about XYZ, because by you giving me that feedback, it's going to help me provide you with webinars relevant to the topics that you actually want to hear about. Train and assessor webinars, guys, being this close to the end of the year, we are going to resume. I think there's one more trainer and assessor PD webinar this year. I could be mistaken, but emails will go out if there is. Otherwise, we may very well wrap it up for 2023 and resume the trainer and assessor webinars in 2024. I do want to tell you guys, I am busy writing a really, really, really exciting professional development program that I'm going to launch in 2024. I'm not going to tell you guys anything about it right now, because it's something that it's going to be absolutely fantastic. And I know for a fact that there are 3 of my competitors, people on this webinar, so I'm not going to be silly enough to go and tell you guys quite yet what it is. Once the product has been developed and once we've trialed it and tested it, and I'm then ready to tell you all about it, I will share that with you. But as I said, I know that I've got some competitors who's got some people in the webinar, and there's one company specifically that if I did give away too much right now, that they always do their best to try and beat me to the post. But yeah, like I said, 2024, I'm going to be launching a really, really exciting PD program, and yeah, watch the space. I'll keep you guys updated. Okay, so let's hop into today's webinar. Today we're going to be looking at marketing and advertising, which is obviously covered by clause 4.1 of the RTO standards. While we are looking at marketing and advertising, we're going to be looking at what your RTO needs to do as a minimum when it comes to your marketing. We're going to be looking at the marketing channels that we need to, channels and avenues that we need to be very, very aware of when we are looking at our operations insofar as clause 4.1 of the standards. We're going to go through with where RTOs often slip up. And guys, when we go into that section of it, we've been, as you guys know, because Vet Prep does rectification work primarily, we probably work with, I think in September alone, I think we had about 15 or 16 RTOs come to us as new clients. And of course, we've got the opportunity to go through their audit reports and see what their deficiencies were at audit time. And when we are going through where RTOs often slip up during this webinar, I will be focusing on areas that ASPA is currently focusing on when it comes to marketing, when they are auditing RTOs and when they are looking at the RTO's marketing practices. And then we're also going to be chatting about how to ensure that your RTO maintains compliance with clause 4.1. Now, I will apologize in advance. I'm sitting in an area that's a little bit high dust area for some strange reason, probably because we're busy renovating here at home. But I've got heaps of water. I've got a cup of tea here, and I've got my mum here from South Africa that keeps on coming in and making me more tea. So unlike our last webinar, I'm hoping I'm not going to have coughing fits, and if I do, I think I'm well stocked up. So without any further ado, guys, clause 4.1 is probably one of the easiest clauses to interpret of all the standards, because all that clause 4.1 says, and clause 4.1 says that your RTO needs to provide sufficient information to prospective learners or clients so they can make an informed decision about the RTO with whom they are thinking of undertaking their training, and also the training product that they're thinking of enrolling in. And essentially, clause 4.1 says, hey, you know what? You as an RTO, you need to provide certain information so that without needing to pick up the phone, the prospective client / learner has got enough information for them to even decide if they want to pick up the phone and make an inquiry with your RTO. Now, it's no different than, I suppose, than consumer law and consumer actions in general. And the way that I always, where I like to suggest RTOs look at it, is think of yourself in a consumer role. Think of yourself when you are going out and when you are going and buying something. And I'm not speaking about buying a can of Coke, but think about yourself that if you were, for argument's sake, looking at buying a new car or a new computer or buying a property, investing money in something that is meaningful to you and is going to cost you a bit of money. Because I don't know what you are like as a consumer, but I know that when I go looking for something, when I go and looking to invest in something, be it, like I said, real estate, vehicles, anything that has a price tag which is significant to me, I like to go and do my homework. And one of the things that absolutely guts me is when I'm chatting to a salesperson and I'm being given misinformation. And I had to actually share with you guys the most brilliant example of this. I went, as I said, my mum is out here visiting from South Africa, and she's 83 in the shade, and I love her to bits and all those kind of things, but she needed a new laptop. So her and I went off to Harvey Norman last week, Saturday, to go laptop hunting for her. Now, I know compliance, I know law, I know RTOs, I know the basics about laptops, and I don't know the ins and outs because we've got an IT department here in VetPrep that does my IT thinking for me. And if I'm stuck, my son in Scotland, he's an IT guru himself, so I can always put the phone call through. Anyway, so what happened is my mum's current laptop, I think, only has 4 gigs of RAM and limited storage space, etc. So we're looking at these laptops in Harvey Norman, and I don't think they even make laptops with 4 gig of RAM anymore. But there was one laptop that she liked that was 8 gig of RAM, and one laptop that she liked that was 12 gig of RAM. But the way that she uses her laptops, she uses a laptop for emails, internet banking, chatting on WhatsApp with her family back in South Africa and me over here in Australia. And then she plays games like solitaire and rummy and things like that on her laptop. But that is all that she uses her laptop for. And with that, I know enough about laptops and about IT to know that she doesn't need a massive, big processing system. But her heart, when she saw 8 gig versus 12 gig, she was like, oh, I think I want a 12 gig RAM laptop. And I was saying to, look, I don't think for what you want to do with a laptop, I don't think you need that. And she was adamant, she wants 12 gig. And interestingly enough, there was a bit of a price difference as well. And I was thinking, A, about my budget, but B, also, does she need the extra? So I called the one salesperson over and I said to him, hey, mate, we're looking at this laptop versus this laptop. Can you explain to us why, A, this is what she needs it for, and can you explain to us why the difference between going for 8 gigs versus 12 gig? Now, guys, as little as I know about IT, the slew that he spewed in an answer, even I knew that he was speaking utter nonsense. And when he gave me his nonsense, I said to him, so my understanding is that you are saying ABC, and he went, yep. And in Afrikaans, because my mum and I speak Afrikaans, I said to her, this guy is so full of nonsense. I said to her, we're leaving. And we walked out of the store. And we walked out because the moment that salesperson gave me misinformation, all his credibility left. As far as I'm concerned, he had zero credibility left. I think we ended up going to JB Hi-Fi, asked exactly the same questions, and the salesperson that helped us there, when I asked her exactly the same question, the answer that she gave me was credible, was believable, and we bought the laptop from JB Hi-Fi. And I think we even spent more at JB Hi-Fi than we would have at Harvey Norman. The point that I'm making with this example is that I am pretty certain that every one of you, when it comes to buying something, will have the same approach to people giving you misinformation as I have. And if not everyone, I'd say probably about 98% of us would have a very similar approach where give me misinformation once and my trust is gone. Or even worse, when you buy something based on what the salesperson told you, and then you get home after you've bought the item, and you then find out that salesperson actually lied to you or provided you with misinformation. The same goes to our marketing of our products, of our training products, to our prospective clients and learners. Guys, it boils down to, we need to make sure and put aside the requirements of these standards for a second. We need to make sure that the information that we provide to the public to the public who are our prospective clients is correct, that we're giving them the right information, we're giving them correct information, and we are giving them enough information for them to be able to ascertain whether or not it's worth their while actually putting inquiry through. And the reason why I say give them enough information so that they can decide whether or not it's worth their while to actually even send an email or pick up the phone is, if we do that, then it also saves us time in replying to emails that really we know is not even going to bring us in any business. And that is, as I said, aside from the requirements of clause 4.1. However, where clause 4.1 is concerned is when we look at our marketing channels, we've got to make sure that every single place where we are advertising our RTO services or products, as well as our training products, that all of our information there is correct. And guys, it goes obviously to your website, because every single business these days has a website that they rely upon, but it applies to your website. It applies to your Facebook posts and your Facebook page. It applies to your LinkedIn profile if your RTO has its own LinkedIn profile. It applies to your LinkedIn profile. It applies to any LinkedIn posts that you put out there regarding your training products. For those of you that use Instagram, it applies to Instagram. It applies to your Google ad. It applies to your course brochures, whether those are electronic downloadable brochures or whether they are still printed brochures. For Cricos providers, it applies to the information that your education agents use. So every single marketing avenue that your RTO uses in order to promote its products and services, clause 4.1 applies to, and there's no exception. So what we find is RTOs, give me one sec, sorry. RTOs very, very often slip up by not putting their RTO code on the website. Guys, clause 4.1 is very explicit and very specific. Your RTO code must be on all of your marketing. And the reason for that is that the RTO, your RTO code obviously identifies who you as a provider are, but it's also there so that a prospective learner or client, if they are thus inclined, can actually go onto TGA, onto training.gov.au, and do a bit of research into your RTO. So your RTO, you've got to have your RTO code there. As we all know, our RTO codes, I always think of your RTO code as your driver's license number. And your RTO code must be on all of the marketing that you do. Now, I'm often asked, hey, if I send out an email to somebody, do I have to have my RTO code on there? Guys, sending an email out to somebody is not necessarily classed as marketing unless it is a marketing email. However, I always say to our clients, you know what, keep it simple, put your RTO code on everything, because if you have consistency across the board, and if you do have your RTO code on every single thing that has your RTO name on it, even business cards, it means that you are not running the risk of actually slipping up. And guys, this should go without saying, but please, when your RTO code goes on your materials, please make sure that your RTO code has been recorded correctly. What we often also find is that RTOs have incorrect course codes and or course titles. And that is the hugest no-no, or one of the hugest no-nos that there possibly is. I'm about to cough, so just you've got to make sure that that the course code and the title is on your marketing, on all of your marketing channels, i.e. these ones here. You've got to make sure that it is used exactly as is published on training.gov. Now, we had a situation, Vetric had a situation not that long ago, a couple of years ago, where there was a uni that owned an RTO, and the RTO had screwed up that badly that the RTO actually had to be wound up, because if the regulator came through, it would have sanctioned the RTO on the spot. But one of the interesting things that this RTO did is it had a course code for a qualification, but it actually made up its own qualification name. For some reason or the other, they used the title of the course code, but then they expanded on that, and they gave it their own sexy, academic sounding title. And in effect, what was happening, and that was all over their enrollment documents, their AQF documents, their marketing material, everything was course code was correct, and like I said, just this unique course title that somebody had decided sounds really, really smart and impressive, and that's what they used. And the scary thing was that they were also doing international delivery. And I remember that, I think it was the Singaporean government, Malaysia or Singapore, it was Singaporean, I think it was the government, was actually one of their big clients. And there they were, and they were selling a course which didn't exist in the AQF system. Their marketing was all about, or included this course that didn't exist in the Australian vet system. Their learning materials, their tools, all had this exciting new name that they had just drawn out of fresh air, but so had the AQF documentation they had issued. So if your RTO has got any accredited course title that it has decided to go and massage a little bit to sound sexier or to sound more saleable or more academic or more industry relevant. Please don't do it, because literally you are advertising and selling a vet product that does not exist, a vet accredited product that does not exist. So please resist the temptation of just pulling these unique course titles out of thin air. On all of your marketing material, be it your website or your brochures or your Facebook page or your Google ads, etc., please be very, very, very sure that you make an incredibly clear distinction between accredited training products that you are delivering and non-accredited products. Because guys, at the end of the day, we all in the vet sector, we accept that people should be able to differentiate what is accredited and what is non-accredited. But remember that unless you have a business like ARCP, for argument's sake, that only delivers to the vet sector, the average guy on the street, they don't understand, or we can't assume that they understand the difference between accredited and non-accredited programs. And it even goes for a business like ARCP, that even though their client base is only within the vet sector, they've also got to make a very clear distinction between accredited and non-accredited programs. And if you want, I think the most perfect example of that is if you go onto the ARCP website, arcp.edu.au, you'll see that there is one of the non-accredited programs that I wrote is called the Foundations of RTO Compliance. And you'll see that the information on the Foundations of RTO Compliance clearly states this is a non-accredited program. And similarly, what ARCP has done with the RTO Standards Unpacked program that I wrote, that is a non-accredited program. And what they have done with that is although it is on their website, when you click on the link, it actually takes you through to rtopd.com.au, which is where you guys go to register for the webinars. But that is also where they have information on their non-accredited programs. And even though that information is not on the RTO's website, even though it is on the rtopd.com.au website, it still says this is a non-accredited program. So guys, once again, if your RTO does have non-accredited and accredited training programs, please make a very, very, very clear differentiation between them. And what you can also even do is you may even decide to have a completely separate area for your non-accredited programs than you do for your AQF programs. However your RTO decides to do it, and there's nothing fundamentally wrong with even having non-accredited and accredited on one page. If you do that, you are skating on thin ice. And if you do that, please make very, very sure that you have put on your website non-accredited program clear enough that even Blind Freddy can see that it is non-accredited. Because once again, if you don't, please, please, please be assured that you are going to get sanctioned. ASPA does not take very kindly to a breach of clause 4.1. And also, if your RTO has got any funding contracts with the various state funding departments, they are even less amused with clause 4.1 slip-ups than ASPA is. If you use third parties at all, whether you use third parties for marketing, for recruitment, for delivery, etc., it must be on your marketing material. And not only the marketing material for the training products that you do engage third parties, it's got to be on your marketing material. Bottom. It's got to be there. It's got to be very obvious. And the days are gone where we could put all these finicky little stuff in very, very small writing and say, oh, it's there. You simply need a magnifying glass to go and find it. Guys, when it comes to the RTO standards and specifically clause 4.1, the requirements that, or the details that you are required to have on your marketing material, must be there. It must be available to be seen just like this. It can't be, in font size 5 or 6 or something like that, because if it is, it creates the impression that your RTO is trying to hide it. And clause 4.1 is all about make sure that all the information that you give to prospective learners / clients is transparent, is there, that you are not trying to hide anything and you're not trying to, I suppose, not even provide misinformation, but that you are just, in a nutshell, it's got to be transparent. One of the things that we often see, and not 100% of the times, but often enough for it to be of enough of a concern for me to mention this, is RTOs advertising superseded training products that has already been taught out. Now, I know that, and I appreciate that sometimes it is just a slip up, and that the RTO has not done a thorough enough audit of their marketing materials to have picked up that they are still advertising training products that have been superseded. Because, and when we're speaking about training products, remember two things: that your RTO, when a training product has been superseded, your RTO can only accept enrollments in that training product that where there is still enough time for the learner to go and complete the entire program before the teach-out period expires. So let's say, for argument's sake, that, and don't shoot me, I'm going to just use a completely, I'm going to use this as an example only, but let's say, for argument's sake, that you are advertising the old diploma of leadership and management, which is usually a 12-month course. And let's say, for argument's sake, that the teach-out period for that was 18 months. You can still, your RTO can still continue advertising that superseded training product for as long as there is enough time for a new enrollee to be able to complete that superseded training product before the end of the teach-out period. But if you do that, although it isn't explicit in clause 4.1, it is good practice and a compliance safeguard to also put there this training product has been superseded and is being replaced by the new training product at this date. However, this isn't a webinar about superseded training products. Coming back to the marketing side, you need to ensure that all of the training products that your RTO is advertising are current. And you've got to ensure that if it is a superseded training product, that there is still time to be able to, for new enrollees, to complete the training or their learning before the teach-out, or by the end of the teach-out period. But also, like I said, please make so very, very sure that nowhere on your website you have got any mention to any training products that have been superseded and the teach-out period is gone, because you are then advertising a training product that you can't deliver. Simple as. We also sometimes see RTOs advertise training products that they do not have on scope. And that is what we refer to as off-scope training products. Now, where we normally see it, and the most recent example of where we see it that comes to mind is we had an RTO client which we had to part ways with because we don't deal with RTOs that are set to do the wrong thing. But what this RTO had done is they had a New South Wales state funding contract, and in that state funding contract, and I think it had something to do with delivering first aid or something. And with the training, and guys, I am going back about 9 months ago, so I might just not get it 100% correct. But with the funding contract, they had an opportunity to actually go and deliver some first aid products as a cluster. And they jumped on the bandwagon, and they went and they were literally advertising and delivering the cluster, and I think it was a cluster of 3 first aid or first aid related units of competency. And they were enrolling, they were training, they were issuing statements of attainment, the whole kabang shot. There's only one slight problem. Of those 3 training, or of those 3 units of competency in the cluster, they only had 1 on scope. And they were literally, and I kid you not, they were literally delivering and enrolling and training and assessing and issuing AQF documents for 2 training products that they did not have on scope. It was a bit of a basket case when we discovered that, and we were able to negotiate something with ASPA. We were able to rectify that, and we were able to negotiate with New South Wales State Training Services, and were able to correct it. However, it was an interesting period needing to negotiate that negotiate that with both regulators. Initially, I said to RTO, I said to them, look, we are going to do our very, very best to negotiate a solution for this on your behalf. And I said to them, luckily, VetPrep has got an exceptional relationship with the state funding bodies as well as ASPA, and we're going to hope that that means something. But I remember initially saying to the RTO owner, in my opinion, we've got very, very little chance of negotiating this away without a sanction. And if we do, it's going to be, it's going to be almost, inconceivable. And like I said, in the end we did, but it was such an uphill battle. So please go and have a look at all of your marketing material. Go and have a look at your website and make absolutely sure that every single training product that you are marketing is on your scope and it's current on your scope. Because yes, we were able to get a favorable outcome for the RTO in this instance, but however, if your RTO is caught up in the same Pandora's box, you may not be so fortunate. Remember, when you're advertising government funding programs, your government funding, let me just go back to the right slide, my apologies. Remember, when you're advertising government funding programs, your government funding contract has very specific stipulations in what information you need to provide in your marketing. So apart from the requirements of clause 4.1, you also need to comply with the requirements of your funding contract when it comes to marketing. And the same for for RTOs that are still doing fee help, that are still delivering under the fee help program. Once again, your contract has got stipulations that you need to comply with, as well as, or in addition to the stipulations of clause 4.1. And ditto for Crycos colleges. So imagine if you are an RTO that is Crycos, that delivers to, Crycos students and domestic students and under government funding. You have got to then comply with the requirements of clause 4.1. You've got to comply with the compliance of the national code when it comes to marketing, and you've also got to go and comply with the requirements of your funding contract when it comes to marketing. So in those instances, you've got a bit of a bigger basket of regulations and of stipulations that you need to comply with. And it isn't one or the other. It is absolutely every requirement from every contract you need to comply with. Your marketing cannot either say or imply that by completing a course or by completing an accredited training program, that it will lead to any employment outcomes, unless your RTO actually has agreements in place and can show that it has provided, historically, it has provided employment outcomes for every single one of the learners in a training product. But I can guarantee you this, if your website or any of your marketing even alludes to the fact that you do provide, or that there is a guarantee of an employment outcome, even if you do have agreements in place that do provide your graduates with employment outcomes, the regulator is going to scrutinize that. So the easiest is, do not infer in any way, shape, or form that that by doing that course may lead to an employment outcome, because you're buying yourself just a heap of stress and pain that just isn't worth it. And guys, it's we don't have to go to the extent of inferring that by completing this program with our RTO that you're going to go and get a job, because at the end of the day, we all, as RTOs, we know that if we go and provide quality training and assessment, that our graduates are going to be able to go and get themselves a new job, or get themselves a better job, or increase their employability because of the quality of training that we've provided to them. So once again, there is no reason for any RTO to infer that by doing a certain program with them is going to produce employment outcomes, because unless it's something that you can back up, clause 4.1 precludes you from doing that. Similarly, if you are delivering training programs where workplace hours are required, you need to actually put that in your advertising as well. So anything where any hoops that the learners need to jump through in order to complete the program, you need to put that on your website. Once again, it's really important, and I know I've just said that, but I'm going to repeat it. If you are doing a program, or if you are advertising or offering a qualification where there is work placement hours required, or mandatory work placement hours, you've got to include that in your marketing material. And the reason for that is so that when somebody enrolls in that training program, that they don't find out after enrollment, oh, by the way, we've got this little nasty, hiding away from you, and just by the way, you're going to have to go and do X number of hours work placement. You've actually got to put it out there, clear as daylight for them, pre-enrollment stage. You've also got to go and make sure that you advertise the course durations. Now, guys, something that we often see RTOs come into incredible strife for is when the course durations are too short, and where it actually doesn't meet the volume of learning, and therefore the amount of training that needs to be delivered isn't being delivered. And the number of times that we have had to help RTOs go through to tribunal to keep their RTO registrations because of course durations is actually really, really sad. And when I think back to where we've had clients that have had to go to the tribunal because of course durations, or that have come into tremendous strife with the regulator because of course durations, what is the saddest of all to me is what we hear without fail is, but our competitors do this, or we have to do the same course durations as our competitors, or else we won't have a business. And the third thing that we hear all the time is, How come our competitors are getting away with this? How come we've been sanctioned, but our competitors get away with it? And guys, for the third question, my answer is without fail, your competitors will only continue doing so until they have been sanctioned as you have been sanctioned. Because at the end of the day, we need to ensure that our course durations, the duration of our training and our assessments, do meet the volume of learning required by that qualification level and or the training package. We need to ensure that we are delivering the right amount of training. And if we are advertising our training products at a short or a course duration that is short enough to raise eyebrows with the regulator, be it your state funding body or ASQA or whatever, whatever contract you need to work with, you are asking for trouble. And I'm trying to think of a nice way to say it, and I can't. You're just asking for trouble. Your focus ought not be on what your competitors are doing. Your focus ought to be on what your RTO is doing and how your RTO's operations, including your marketing activities, is going to potentially affect your registration. Because, guys, let's call it for what it is. If you are advertising short course durations or minimum or decreased short course durations, which do not meet the requirements of your volume of learning or the training package, and if you're doing it because your competitors are doing it, at the end of the day, when your RTO is sanctioned, it's your RTO's registration at risk. Forget about your competitors because they haven't been caught yet. It's your RTO's registration that is at risk. It's your RTO that's going to get sanctioned. It's your RTO that's going to go and need to have the operational disruption of trying to fight a sanction. It's your RTO that's going to spend tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars trying to fight the sanction. It boils down to your RTO. Your competitors, they're not affected. Your RTO is. So when it comes to course durations, and I guess all operations within an RTO, but we'll go back to course duration for now, you need to have a look at the course durations that you are advertising, as well as obviously the actual course durations of your training products. But always bear in mind your RTO, are you guys compliant with what you are doing? And I know it's a big ask to say, don't look at your competitors, because we need to look at our competitors. They are the people that is taking revenue away from us potentially. But also consider, if you're going to go and do something or offer really short courses, etc., remember the risk that is putting your RTO's registration at. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, the course can be done within, let's say it's a diploma course. And let's say that, according to your volume of learning, your TAS, your course duration that you've worked out, let's say that you've worked out that you can deliver a diploma of leadership and management within, let's say, 10 months. There's nothing that stops you from advertising, hey, the course duration is 10 to 14 months, for argument's sake, because you are then giving a range of a course duration, and you would then have the same in your TAS, by the way, as well. But what that indicates is that for certain cohorts, depending on their on the cohort's characteristics, their existing knowledge, their learning needs, etc., some cohorts may be able to finish it in 10 months. The normal course duration will be 12 months, and with an extra 2 months, it allows for extension. So you can have a range, a course duration range on there, but even if you do that, be conservative with that and don't put a massive big range. So maintaining compliance with clause 4.1. Please ask yourself, does my RTO have a marketing compliance system? And guys, the reason why I say that is we have, and for the regular webinar attendees, you've often heard me referring to compliance, to compliance systems. We noticed the beginning of 2022 that as per when we've been getting audit reports in from new clients, that the ASPR audit reports are littered with this compliance system, that compliance system. The RTO doesn't have this compliance system. The RTO doesn't have a compliance system for this. The RTO doesn't have a compliance system for that. And we have seen it consistently, and we continue to see it consistently, to the effect that we've actually gone and created something like 24 odd compliance systems for RTOs, because, and they're 24 different ones, because the average RTO needs something like between 10 to 14 compliance systems in place to be able to address ASPR's requirements of compliance systems. And please have a look and see if your RTO has a marketing compliance system. And if you don't, please go and get one, or go and develop one as soon as possible, so that when it comes to your next audit, when the auditor says to you, what is your, show me your RTO's marketing compliance system, that there isn't this pregnant pause as you go, what the heck are they talking about? And if you do have an answer for them, you need to make sure that your marketing compliance system is sufficient to be able to cover all of your marketing operations. Another way, guys, or one of the things that you also need to have in place is, for all your marketing activities, you need to have checklists. You need to have checklists in place. You need to have balancing checks in place. And it's always best practice to have, especially with your marketing, before marketing goes live, have it double checked, have it triple checked if need be. And the best way, given that our marketing, given that our website and our Google ads and everything else, given that it's out there in the public domain, the best suggestion that I can give to every one of you out here is, especially when it comes to your marketing activities, please do constant and regular audits of your marketing operations. And I'm even going to go so far as to say that as a compliance practitioner, you need to be auditing your RTO's marketing materials, especially your electronic marketing materials, at least, or do it every quarter, every 3 months. Go and book off 3 or 4 hours and go and look at every single word on every single page of your website. Go and have a look at what is being put out there on your Google ads, on your Facebook page, because, and it might seem, you might be sitting there, you might be going, every quarter, isn't that an overkill? Guys, I'm a compliance consultant, I'm a compliance nerd. And to me, when it comes to compliance, and especially something as incredibly high risk as compliance with clause 4.1, and I say clause 4.1, I say your marketing is a high risk because it's out there in the public domain, and so often we see people or RTOs that have got stuff on their website, they think everything is hunky-dory, and so often your marketing or RTOs don't spend enough time on doing a quality assurance on every single thing in their marketing, and that is why I call it a high risk. But in anything that is high risk in your RTO, I'm a massive believer in do regular, thorough audits of that part of the operation, because rather err on the side of safety, rather go for a bit of an overkill than come audit time, or come that RTO that ASPR has done a quick look at your operations and they find a mistake. Because remember also that ASPR can do a desk audit on our marketing without us even knowing about it. They can simply go onto our website and they can simply go and just trawl through our website and do the kind of QA audit that we should be doing, And if they have found deficiencies there, we're in for some unpleasant times. And that is why I say sit there and every quarter schedule it, put it in your diary, make sure that you don't forget, that you go through every single bit of marketing material that is out there. And if you have deficiencies, fix it straight away. The beauty, and I mean, I know this is not really necessary to say, but the beauty about online marketing of whatever form is we can fix it and it goes live just like that. So if you find an issue with your online marketing, fix it straight away. If your RTO has a system where your IT team might not be available to fix it immediately, or maybe you don't have access to the back end of the website or of your Google Ads to go and fix it immediately. If it can't be fixed on the spot, rather go and take the page down, get it fixed, and then bring the page live again. But you can't afford to have any marketing material out there that is not compliant. And if during your audits, if you have picked up non-compliances in your marketing, please, please, please have them fixed and then sit down with your marketing team and talk to them, give them some PD about how they need to do the marketing, that it is compliant. Because remember, once again, if they slip up, if anybody within your marketing team slips up, they have literally put your RTO's registration at risk. Guys, finally, audit. You cannot do marketing or audits of marketing. Sorry, once again, you can't do audits of marketing material often enough and regularly enough. Often and regular, same thing. You can't, let me try and rephrase, you can't over audit anything to do with your marketing. Now, I owe you guys a massive apology. It is 12:57. I said before we started that there is Q&A time. I do apologize, guys. I have gone on for too long. So here's the thing. For those of you that are able to stay while I go through a few questions, please feel free to. I'm probably going to answer probably a half a dozen questions. For those of you that can't stay, because I know we've gone over time, please feel free to email your questions to me at info@arcp.edu.au. I promise I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And yeah, let's have a look at some of the questions that we've got. Now, last time I tried to do this, I stuffed up. So I'm going to try and not get buggered up this time. Michelle, do you have any advice on how to best handle marketing that you don't know about? I.e., a trainer who has decided to pop up an ad they've personally created on their personal Facebook page. Whoo! Michelle, I have never, ever, ever had that question or even come across that. But you know what? If it was me, if it was my RTO, you know what I would do? I would very, very urgently go and adjust my policy where it comes to marketing. I would very, very quickly go and include in there that trainers and assessors may not do any unauthorized marketing. I would then also pull the trainer aside and ask them what the heck they think they were doing. Probably read them the Riot Act and make sure they don't do it again. Because for a trainer and assessor, for anybody within the RTO that hasn't been tasked with doing the marketing, for anybody to go out there and just go, hey, I'll just go rogue. Let me just go and do some advertising. Wow. And like I said, as a compliance practitioner, I would be absolutely pippy if they did that. So to me, it's a case of putting the person that did it, pulling them in line, and obviously and telling them to go and take it down immediately, and then make sure that they can actually show that they have taken it down. I hope that helps. Oh, okay, Michelle, thank you. You've just come back. You said it hasn't happened, but it's been on the back of your mind. Thank you for that. Guys, there's a number of questions from people that have left the session, so I'm not going to go and answer that. Is there anybody, and you know what, in fact, I'm going to, and there's actually a lot of people leaving, so I'm going to ask, has anybody got any questions that you are burning that you want me to answer for you right now? Or otherwise, I will just ask you to go and email me. Oh, they're flying in now. Hold on a second. Let me go from the start. David, you said you're an RTO with a GTO. How does employment outcomes relate to us? I'm going to take this one offline with you. I know I also need to give you a phone call about the RTO compliance qualifications, and happy to talk with you to cover that with you as well when I chat with you about the compliance qualifications. Anita, thank you for your question. I will take that up with the relevant people, and I will make sure that your question is answered today. Kate, you mentioned that there should be 10 to 14 compliance systems to cover the requirements of ASPA. Is there a way to determine what each compliance system should look like and what each system covers? Kate, it's really, really hard, because what the compliance system should look like and what it covers, that is a completely different discussion altogether, and something that will probably take a webinar by itself, because it's so involved, and it also depends from RTO to RTO. I know I said previously that we've gone and developed 24 or more compliance systems that are relevant to different RTOs, but even so, even when we have an RTO, or for every single RTO that asked us to provide our compliance systems to them, we have the framework, and we then go and contextualize it to the RTO's operations. So quite frankly, the short answer is no. Without looking at your RTO and your operations, I actually can't say, hey, these are the systems that you need. This is what they should include, etc. I'm sorry, there's just no short answer. Elsha, you've asked, is student handbook, brochure, etc. needed now that we market heavily online? You still need a student handbook. Your student handbook should be available on your website, because that is part of, although it isn't strictly speaking marketing, it's part of being able to provide your prospective learners with enough information about how you as an RTO, what your procedures are and what your policies are. For argument's sake, the student handbook, would most likely include how your RTO deals with plagiarism, what your RTO's training, or what your RTO's assessment systems are like, what your RTO's policy about course extensions are, etc., etc. And given that that is something that normally is critical to a learner before they enroll, or sorry, given that that is something that is normally critical to a learner once they have enrolled, you owe it to your prospective learners to be able to have this information up front, so that they can know what they are up for if they do choose to undertake a program with your RTO. I hope that makes sense. Guys, on that note, I'm going to say goodbye. Sylvana, I'm going to just quickly answer yours. And then I'm really going to say goodbye, because we've lost 3/4 of people already. Sylvana, can we say in our advertising, become a job title, even though you need to get a license issued after doing the qualification? So what Sylvana is asking is, if they are offering licensed courses in their advertising, can they say, hey, become a compliance practitioner, and then advertise the course? I'm going to suggest go and have a look very, very, very carefully about what Clause 4.1 says about licensing outcomes, because there is a special requirement for that. And yes, strictly speaking, as long as you do full disclosures in your ad that says become a insert title, you can. However, you've got to write your ad in such a way that it doesn't allude. You see, the whole thing about advertising and about, become a compliance practitioner, for argument's sake, is you've got to make sure that your advertising doesn't infer or allude to the fact that doing, or doesn't infer or allude to, if they do this course with you, they will automatically get a job. And I think that should be the asset test. Read your ad, and will somebody who is completely ignorant, if they read your ad, is there enough information there for them to be able to understand that doing the course, or after completing the course, they still need to get a license issued? And even if they've done the course and they've had their license issued, that it doesn't guarantee them that they'll get a job. I hope that makes sense. I know I waffled on a bit there. I do apologize. I hope that makes sense. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure to be able to share this hour with you. As always, I am incredibly humbled that you've chosen to take an hour out of your very busy day to spend it with me. I hope you've enjoyed the webinar. Thank you for all the lovely comments about how informative it was. And like I said, we will be emailing everybody within the next few weeks, and just I'd love to hear what you guys want us to chat about next year. Guys, I will see you in a fortnight's time for our next webinar. Have a great one. Bye-bye.